They served drinks and punchlines for 11 years, but you won't believe what happened when the cameras stopped rolling. One star's life spiraled after leaving the show too soon, plunging into a battle with depression and becoming a complete recluse. Another famous face, known for his charm, shocked everyone by cheating with 3 women in a single night, but somehow, he saved his marriage. The beloved bartender who made us laugh with his weak jokes. He nearly faced a career-ending scandal that could have destroyed anyone today. Now, after 40 years, we take a look at who's thriving, who's struggling, and who we've lost forever. It is the untold story of Ted Danson. Ted Danson didn't just play Sam Malone, he became Sam Malone. Over a decade, millions of viewers tuned in every week to watch the flirty ex-ball player behind the bar at Cheers. When the show ended in 1993, an astounding 80 million people watched him bid farewell to the iconic sitcom. It was one of the most watched TV finales of all time, but what you didn't see was what happened behind the scenes. While the world was laughing and cheering, Danson was quietly growing weary of it all. The character that made him a household name had also trapped him in a box. By the time Cheers wrapped up, Danson was 45, his marriage had ended in a brutal divorce, and he had just split from Whoopi Goldberg after their very public relationship. That's when the Friars Club roast came, and it changed everything. The night Danson wore blackface as part of a joke with Goldberg was supposed to be funny, but the backlash was anything but. Goldberg stood by him, but the public didn't. What followed was harsh ridicule that nearly crushed his spirit. The jokes stopped, and the mockery began. That night haunted him for years, becoming a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in his life. He later admitted that at the time, he wasn't emotionally mature enough to handle the consequences. In a raw interview, he confessed to being a liar in past relationships, a painful but necessary admission. That moment marked the beginning of Ted's transformation. It was the start of deep self-reflection, therapy, and mentorship, an intense journey of personal growth. It wasn't easy, but it worked. Slowly, the man who once embodied the lovable bar owner Sam Malone began to evolve into someone completely different. This new version of Ted Danson found purpose in an unexpected place, the ocean. While living in Santa Monica, he took his daughters to the beach. He saw a sign that read, "No swimming, water polluted." Couldn't explain it to them. That moment sparked something inside him, a question that turned into a calling. Partnered with a friend and launched the American Oceans campaign from their basement. What began as a small effort quickly grew into Oceana, one of the world's largest environmental groups. But Danson didn't just lend his name. He became deeply involved. He studied the science, learned the facts, and used his fame to raise awareness. His message was clear. The oceans are dying, and if we don't act now, everything else will follow. From overfishing and plastic waste to offshore drilling, Danson fought tirelessly on every front. He argued that saving the oceans would fix more than just the water. It could feed people, protect the climate, and mitigate the natural disasters we're facing more often. By 2025, his environmental activism had made headlines once again. He threw his full support behind bold policies like the Green New Deal and took to the streets, marching for climate justice. It wasn't just talk, Danson showed up. And with the devastation of wildfires, floods, and droughts intensifying, so did his sense of urgency. He warned that if we don't make a change, the most vulnerable among us will suffer the most. But life wasn't all politics and protests for Danson. His career quietly entered a golden age. On The Good Place, he portrayed a charming, flawed demon-turned-hero, and earned critical acclaim once more. Younger fans, who had never seen Cheers, began calling him a legend. His latest hit, A Man on the Inside, stayed in Netflix's top 10 for weeks, scoring him another Golden Globe nomination. Now, in January 2025, Ted Danson is set to receive one of television's highest honors, the Carol Burnett Award. Shelley Long lit up the screen as Diane Chambers, the book's smart waitress whose sharp wit and boundless ambition became the heart of Cheers. From the very first episode, she was a force to be reckoned with. She spoke like she was quoting Shakespeare, carried herself with the grace of a professor, and still managed to make us laugh out loud. 5 seasons, Diane's back and forth with Sam was the pulse of the show. In 1987, just as Cheers was riding high, Shelley made a jaw-dropping decision. She walked away. And everything changed. Viewers were left stunned. The show's writers panicked. Even Cheers co-creator Glenn Charles admitted that critics believed the series might not survive without her. It seemed like a risky move, almost reckless. But for Shelley, it made perfect sense. Hollywood had come calling with movie offers, and back then, film carried far more prestige than TV. She'd already made waves in the money pit alongside Tom Hanks and earned critical acclaim for Irreconcilable Differences. Shelley wasn't just looking for a seat at the table, she wanted to grow beyond it. There was more to her departure than just ambition. Shelley had recently become a mother, and long hours on set didn't line up with the life she wanted for her daughter, Juliana. In interviews, she was clear. Spending time with her child was more important than another 22-episode season. She also felt Cheers was starting to repeat itself. Same stories, same tension. It was beginning to feel stale, and she wasn't willing to just phone it in. So, she took the leap. But not everything behind the scenes had been smooth. Creative clashes simmered, and Ted Danson, her on-screen love interest, later admitted that they had tension. According to him, it was always professional, two people simply working in different ways. Then came Kelsey Grammer's character, Frasier, who started getting more lines. Some say Shelley didn't like that shift. Whether that's true or not, the shift in dynamics was clear. Her spotlight was fading, yet she left on her own terms, later calling Cheers one of the most satisfying experiences of her life. After leaving Cheers, Shelley's career took some unexpected turns. Her first big post-Cheers movie was Hello Again, where she played a housewife who comes back from the dead. Then came Troop Beverly Hills, where she played a lovable but clueless scout leader. Neither film made much of an impact. Critics weren't impressed, and audiences didn't bite. Suddenly, her bold decision to leave Cheers didn't seem so smart. But then, everything changed with the Brady Bunch movie. Shelley took on the role of Carol Brady, the picture-perfect mom in a bizarre world that was equal parts weird and nostalgic. It was strange, funny, and brought her career a second wind. She stuck with the role in sequels and TV spin-offs, and for a while, it seemed like she'd found her lane. Sitcoms even tried to pull her back in, like Good Advice, but they didn't stick. While all of this was happening, her personal life quietly unraveled. After over 20 years of marriage, she and Bruce Tyson separated, divorcing in 2004. By then, Shelley had already begun to withdraw from the spotlight. Priorities had shifted, and she began focusing on her daughter, only appearing in projects that genuinely interested her. Behind the scenes, Shelley wasn't doing well. The pressure to prove herself after Cheers had worn her down. Every flop felt like a public failure. Every article seemed to ask the same question: did she make the wrong choice? That kind of weight takes its toll. After her divorce, Shelley's struggles with depression became harder to hide. She retreated even further, and public sightings became rarer. In 2022, when one photo of her resurfaced, it made headlines simply because it had been so long since anyone had seen her. Ted Danson later reflected that Shelley was a lot like Diane: brilliant, demanding, and intense. And maybe that was the problem. When the character you play is so close to who you are, it's hard to move on. By 2025, Shelley, now 75, is mostly retired, making occasional appearances in indie films or guest spots. Her last major role was in The Cleaner in 2021. Rhea Perlman didn't set out to become a television icon. But once she put on that waitress uniform and stepped behind the bar on Cheers, everything changed. Playing Carla Tortelli, the tough, sharp-tongued heart of the show, Rhea instantly became unforgettable. From her very first sarcastic quip to the final episode, Rhea owned that role. She wasn't just a supporting actress, she was the spark that made every scene sizzle. Audiences adored her fire, her comebacks, and her brutal honesty, and critics couldn't get enough of her. Rhea received 10 Emmy nominations and won 4 of them, more than any other actor on the show. NBC later called Carla one of the greatest TV characters ever. But before Cheers, Rhea was still finding her footing. A small part on Taxi had earned her some notice. That's where she worked with Danny DeVito, who would later become her husband. From there, producers saw something in Rhea that others hadn't. They saw grit, strength, and authenticity. That led to Cheers, where she stayed for the full 11 years, appearing in all 275 episodes. She never left. The show was more than a job for Rhea, it was family. Her sister, Hader, helped write and produce it, and her father, Philip, appeared in over 160 episodes. The show ended, Rhea didn't try to pretend it wasn't a big deal. She called it the best job she'd ever had. In fact, the cast even considered staying another year. And why wouldn't she? As Rhea once said, when you're getting a gift every year, you take it. But off-screen, Rhea Perlman's life was just as layered as her legendary character. She met Danny DeVito in 1971 during a small play in New York, and from the moment they met, they clicked. By 1982, they were married, the same year Cheers began. Over the years, they had 3 children: Lucy, Grace, and Jake. In 2012, after 30 years together, they separated. Most people expected a divorce. But that never happened. As of 2025, Rhea and Danny are still legally married, still close, and still raising their grandkids together. It's a love story unlike any other. Rhea once said their relationship actually improved after separating because the pressure was gone. They still see each other, talk often, and share the important moments in life, like the birth of their grandchild Sinclair in 2021, and another grandchild after that. They even continue to work together at their film company, Jersey Films. But Rhea isn't the type to fade away quietly. She kept acting long after Cheers ended. She starred in Pearl, showed up in The Mindy Project, and stole scenes in films like Canadian Bacon and Matilda. And the magic behind Matilda. It was directed by none other than Danny DeVito, and Rhea nailed the role of the terrible mother. But Rhea wasn't done yet. In 2023, she shocked everyone with a powerful performance as Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie, in the global hit Barbie. It was a moment that reminded everyone just how good she still is. It's not all. Rhea also wrote a children's book series called Otto Undercover, 6 books in total, filled with wild and funny adventures. One of them even made Child Magazine's list of the best books of the year. Even at 77, Rhea is still working, still writing, still showing up. She's a force to be reckoned with. George Wendt never set out to be a TV legend, but when he stepped behind the bar on Cheers as Norm Peterson, something magical happened. What was meant to be just another guy sitting on a stool turned into one of the most iconic characters in sitcom history. Every time Norm walked in and the bar yelled, "Norm," it wasn't just a joke, it became a ritual. What most people didn't know, however, was the secret chemistry between Wendt and his co-star, John Ratzenberger. The two came up with something they called Yoker Obscura, a quirky style of humor they thought nobody would laugh at. It worked. Norm wasn't just funny, he became part of people's lives. Wendt was nominated for 6 consecutive Emmy Awards, but somehow, he never won. Joked about it, but the fact that the guy who made everyone laugh never took home the trophy became one of those things people couldn't forget. And then there was the beer. Wendt once revealed that the beer he drank on set was full of salt to make it foam better. It tasted awful. He had to chug it repeatedly during scenes, and it made him worry about his blood pressure. Eventually, he figured out a trick. He would only drink when the camera was rolling. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes tidbit you never see, but it shows how much effort went into making Norm look so effortlessly lovable. When Cheers ended, Wendt could have easily faded into the background, just another actor known for his most famous role. But he didn't. Initially, it was tough. People saw him as Norm, and only Norm. Instead of fighting it, Wendt found peace with it. In a later interview, he spoke candidly about playing a character who, like him, was forever tied to one role. That honesty resonated deeply. Wendt understood what it was like to be frozen in time in other people's memories. Then came the health scare. In 2013, just before a major stage production, Wendt experienced chest pains and had to back out. It was serious. For someone who had always been the epitome of calm, it was a wake-up call. Reminded everyone, including Wendt, that life can change in an instant. After that, he began weaving those real-life worries into his characters, bringing a new depth to his performances. Even in his 70s, George Wendt hasn't disappeared. He's still working, still taking on new roles, and still showing up in movies. His net worth sits between $25 and $45 million. Not bad for a guy who spent years just sitting at the end of a bar on TV. John Ratzenberger's story is one of pure instinct and serendipity. Back in the early 80s, he was just another actor hoping for a breakthrough. When he auditioned for Cheers, he thought he'd blown it. As he walked out, convinced the opportunity was gone, something clicked. He turned back, pitched an idea. What if his character was a regular at the bar, constantly sharing random trivia? He even gave an example on the spot, explaining why the big pen dropped the H from bitch. Bold, strange, and utterly captivating. That moment birthed Cliff Clavin, the trivia-loving mailman who would go on to become one of the show's most iconic characters. And it wasn't planned. It was pure instinct. That one spark changed everything. When Cheers ended, many assumed Ratzenberger would quietly fade into the background. Then, Pixar called. He became the studio's lucky charm. From the abominable snowman in Monsters, Inc. to Mack the truck in Cars, Ratzenberger was in every Pixar film for 25 consecutive years. Fans even made a game out of spotting him in each new release. By 2019, his box office numbers had reached the billions. But then, out of nowhere, the streak ended. No announcement, no explanation. He just vanished from Pixar's voice cast. Fans still don't know why. But one thing is certain. John Ratzenberger wasn't just focused on Hollywood fame. Behind the scenes, he became a businessman and inventor. In 1989, he created an eco-friendly packaging product made from paper instead of plastic. The idea was so successful that he sold the company a few years later. Then he went digital, inventing a system that used celebrity names to bring people to websites. While others were chasing Hollywood roles, Ratzenberger was traveling across America, filming a show called Made in America. He wanted to show people how things were built, and why it mattered. That mission grew into a full-blown movement. He even donated $1 million to revive trade skills in public schools. Welding, carpentry, plumbing, believing these jobs were just as valuable as anything in Hollywood. And he didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. Away from the spotlight, Ratzenberger settled into a quieter life. He was married for 2 decades, had 2 kids, and later remarried in 2012. After years living in London, he moved to a small island in Washington state, staying far from the Hollywood rush. He was also vocal about his political beliefs, supporting conservative politicians even when it drew criticism. But to him, speaking up was simply part of who he was. Kirstie Alley had big shoes to fill when Shelley Long left Cheers. Pressure was brutal, but Kirstie brought her own magic. Kirstie Alley entered Cheers with a voice and presence like no one else. As Rebecca Howe, she wasn't trying to fill Diane's shoes, she carved out her own distinct character. Smart, anxious, and career-obsessed, but secretly a mess, Rebecca felt like someone viewers could relate to. And it worked. Kirstie Alley quickly won over audiences, earning both an Emmy and a Golden Globe for her role on Cheers. Before the show, she was mostly known for a small role in Star Trek II, but Cheers catapulted her career. Afterward, she took on dramatic roles, earned another Emmy, and starred in Veronica's Closet. She was open about her struggles with weight gain, turning it into a TV show, memoir, and reality series. Unafraid to speak her mind, she openly supported Donald Trump, despite the consequences for her career. In late 2022, Kirstie passed away from colon cancer at 71, keeping her diagnosis private until her death. Woody Harrelson joined Cheers as the goofy new bartender, Woody Boyd, and quickly became a breakout star with his charm and timing. While still on the show, he ventured into films, starting with Wildcats. After Cheers, he took a break from acting to focus on family, but when he returned, roles weren't readily available. Danson made a bold move by playing a violent serial killer in Natural Born Killers, shocking audiences and proving his versatility. He later earned an Oscar nomination for The People vs. Larry Flynt, solidifying his place among Hollywood's best. The messenger to The Hunger Games, Harrelson's career showcased his range, making him synonymous with quality and talent. Woody Harrelson's life has always been defined by bold risks. In 2002, a drunken scandal in London nearly ruined his marriage, but his partner, Laura, stood by him through it all, offering unwavering support. Same week, he was jailed after a fight with a cab driver, but Laura remained by his side, helping him rebuild. In 2024, Woody surprised fans by starring in Suncoast, a reflective indie film, showing a more personal side. Despite this quieter phase, he shocked the industry by turning down 2 roles in The White Lotus to honor a family vacation. Kelsey Grammer's portrayal of Dr. Frasier Crane hid a life full of unimaginable pain. 13, he lost his father to murder, then his sister was kidnapped and killed. He also lost 2 half-brothers in a diving accident. Despite such losses, Kelsey kept going, winning Emmys, a Tony, and earning iconic voice work on The Simpsons. However, he battled severe emotional pain, drugs, and alcohol, leading to interventions and rehab. His personal life was just as tumultuous, with 4 marriages, public scandals, and controversial moments, like marrying a younger woman just 2 weeks after his divorce. The press never let him forget it. Kelsey Grammer's resilience continued after decades in Hollywood. In 2023, he reprised his role as Frasier Crane, proving he was still willing to take risks. His reconciliation with Ted Danson, ending a 30-year silence, surprised many and could lead to new work together. Nicholas Colasanto, beloved as coach on Cheers, faced immense personal struggles. Despite battling alcoholism, he got sober in 1976. By the time he joined Cheers, his health was already declining. He pushed through, even as his condition worsened, but passed away in 1985, leaving an unforgettable legacy as the lovable coach. Philip Perlman's late blooming career was a surprise twist. After retiring from the toy business, he moved to La, where his daughter Rhea Perlman starred on Cheers. Asked to be an extra and soon became a fan favorite, appearing in 142 episodes as Phil, a regular barfly. His natural comedic timing made him a memorable part of the show. He later acted in films with son-in-law Danny DeVito and even appeared on Frasier and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Philip passed away in 2015 at 95, proving it's never too late for a new beginning.